What's up, guys? This is Matt from Pedovera. Pedovera, we are your web marketing partner on demand, and we specialize in sales funnel design. Today, I'm giving you our top 10 easy email newsletter tips guaranteed to get you more leads. So over the last 5 years, I've sent, or on behalf of our clients, have sent over 800,000 emails. And in the process of doing that, I've learned a couple of things about what works and what doesn't. And so I want to share those with you today in these 10 easy to implement tips. So why should you be focused on email if you're not already focused on it? I know that a lot of people that I meet with, a lot of business owners, they're talking about social media now and SEO. But the fact is that in terms of ROI, email is going to get you the best return on investment of any of those channels. Now, according to research from the Direct Marketing Association, email gets a 1,000 times, or I think it's a 1,000% ROI compared to social media. Versus compared to SEO, it's a 2 times higher ROI. Because with social media, social media is great, but it's really better for generating traffic and kind of initial demand and awareness. It's really not a great channel when you're trying to generate leads and sales. On the other hand, SEO will send you quality traffic, but still, even in that case, when you're getting the quality traffic that people who are out there who are searching for terms related to what you're offering, a large percentage still won't be ready to buy or request a consultation on the spot. And that's where email really comes in. It's because email is all about the follow-up. It's all about building the relationship, building trust, goodwill, credibility, and then obviously making that offer where people are going to take action and buy from you or contact you for a consultation. So let's jump into it. Here's tip number 1. Have a single focused purpose with your email newsletter. Now, if you look at this example from Crest, right? I mean, this is a B2C business, but they have no single focus call to action. They have multiple buttons, multiple images. I'm not really sure where to look. I don't really care about toothbrushes that much. Maybe there's someone out there who's really passionate about toothbrushes, but is the average person really going to take the time to read this over and take action? I mean, I don't even know what I need to do because there's so much going on. So your newsletter should be simpler, okay? It should be focused. You need to decide, is your goal to grow traffic to your website with your newsletter? Are you looking to generate leads and sales directly? Or is the purpose simply to educate people and build that goodwill and credibility with some free content? Okay, so you need to choose one and definitely keep it simple from a visual standpoint. Newsletter tip number 2, include a call to action. Okay, so now what you make as a decision here as to what your call to action should be is directly informed by what you decided your goal is for the newsletter in tip number 1. For example, what should people do when they're done reading your newsletter? Do you want them to go learn about your services? Should they go buy something? Should they share your content with others? Okay, what do you want them to actually do? Okay, and it's important that you make these little decisions with purpose because it's going to make all the difference as far as getting you results. I mean, if you just kind of write your email newsletter, include some information, fire it off, you're not going to get results. You have to be willing to make these decisions and then make these little tweaks because it's going to make all the difference. And as far as, kind of length of the call to action, because a call to action doesn't have to necessarily be a button, especially in the context of a newsletter, because a newsletter is not a web page. So here are some examples of calls to action in newsletters. This screenshot here is taken from our own newsletter, where at the bottom in the PS, we say, okay, are you getting value from our newsletter? Then why not take the next step? Learn more about our services and request a consultation. Or why not join us on our free live Fix Your Funnel webinar? Another example here comes from Sam Ovens. He recently did a relaunch on one of his courses, and it's pretty clear what his purpose is as far as the call to action in his email newsletter. He wants you to click through and watch his video. Newsletter tip number 3, split test every time. So in business, you want to be making data-driven decisions. You don't just want to be, okay, well, I think the wind is blowing east, west, north, south, whatever. You want to have empirical evidence to actually direct your marketing actions. And split testing is one of the best ways to get that empirical evidence. So, for example, personally, I recommend ActiveCampaign for this, because with ActiveCampaign, I know a few other email subscribers, or rather email software providers, do this as well. It allows you to split test not just your subject line, but the entire content of your email as well. Granted, doing that can be very time consuming, so I don't recommend doing it every single time. It's probably not worth it, just in terms of it from a time standpoint. But definitely do it on your subject line every single time. And make sure to think about it kind of like a rule of business physics when you're coming up with the different subject line variations, right? So with subject line A, if that is unique compared to subject line B, you're more likely to get a significantly higher result, or lower result, but you're going to learn something either way. And even if you get a lower result, as long as your software is set up to choose the better one automatically, like ActiveCampaign is, that better result will be sent to the rest of your email list. And you're going to learn something again, right? So I do recommend that when you're testing each subject line, make sure that each subject line variation is uniquely different. Newsletter tip number 4, do a test send. This one is pretty simple, but the goal is to stay out of your subscribers' spam box or spam folder, and out of their promotions tab if they are on Gmail. Because if you're getting into their promotions tab or their spam folder, there's a high likelihood that people just won't see it, they won't read it, it will get buried. All right, so make sure to do a test send, especially with an account on Gmail, and also include, if you want to go the extra mile, set up accounts for testing on Gmail, Yahoo, Hotmail, and all the major providers, and do a test send to those as well. Because you're going to get that much more, again, data-driven evidence that when you hit the send button, it's going to go into your subscriber's inbox. Newsletter tip number 5, consistency equals more leads and more sales. So if you want a consistent result, you have to take consistent action, right? And I wrote about this principle in a recent article called The One Thing Keeping Your Small Business Small. You can click through and read that on the article if you're interested. But the bottom line is this: set a schedule and stick to it. Whether it's monthly, weekly, quarterly, whatever it is, set a schedule and stick to it. Newsletter tip number 6, shorter lines are easier to read. So this is backed up by evidence cited by Derek Halpern, MaxDesign.com, and others, where the conclusion is that the optimal line length is about 12 words per line, or between 480 to 600 pixels in width. And the reason is because as the length of a line increases beyond that width, reading rates, reading slows, and retention rates as far as memory fall as line lengths begin to exceed that ideal width. In other words, the UNI has to work harder to do a carriage return on the page as you're reading, from left to right. So this is, again, one of those easy but small changes that you can make. Bottom line, use an ideal text line length based on the research cited here to provide a good experience and to retain readers. Tip number 7, tell stories. This is something that I've written in detail about in our vacuum funnel formula, email funnel formula, in a previous blog post, so I definitely recommend you check that out. But the basic principle is this: when you tell a story, or when you start a story, you're kind of opening a mental loop in the mind of the listener or reader. And as humans, our psychology is to naturally want to close that loop, to understand, what is the conclusion of the story, what happens to the characters, what's the key takeaway, right? Well, if you include a story in your content, in your newsletter content, as evidenced by the example here from Alex Turnbell, the founder of support software Groove HQ, in his tests, he found that by including a story, the percentage of people who actually read the entire article increased by 300%, and average time on the page increased by 5-fold. Newsletter tip number 8, decrease unsubscribes with the white space rule. So why do advertisers buy billboards in Times Square? Visibility, right? Because things that are highly visible get more attention and you're more likely to remember it, and hopefully it drives more sales, right? Unfortunately, this is also true as far as the unsubscribe link, but those are the kinds of conversions that you don't want. You don't want people clicking that unsubscribe button. But naturally, by law, we all have to include it at the bottom of our email newsletters. And we want to, right? You don't want someone marketing as spam. You'd rather them just unsubscribe. So how do you kind of achieve a happy medium where you decrease the overall visibility of the unsubscribe link, but also not remove it, because obviously that would be unfair to your subscribers and kind of go against the law? Well, the easy way to find that happy medium is to implement the white space rule. This is where you just have a gap of white space between the end of your email newsletter and the point where the unsubscribe link is actually shown. Jeff Walker uses this. I use this on every email newsletter that we send. It absolutely works. And my buddy Brian Harris over at Video Fruit uses this as well. And he measured the results and found that his unsubscriber actually dropped by about 60%. So it absolutely works, and it's super easy to implement. Just hit the enter button about 8 to 10 times and you're good to go. Newsletter tip number 9, always answer the question, what's in it for me? As Eleanor Roosevelt once said, you wouldn't worry so much about what others think of you if you realized how seldom they do. Now, what do I mean by this? How does this relate to you sending an effective newsletter that's going to generate results? Well, the bottom line is that people aren't sitting around waiting for your next newsletter to arrive in their email inbox. And the truth is that you need to realize that because it's going to help you write better content. If you are of the mindset that, okay, people are busy, they have their own lives, they have their own interests, they have their own priorities, right? And keep in mind the questions that you want to answer as you're writing your newsletter. Why would someone want to read this? How is this going to make his or her life or his or her business better? If I were in my reader's shoes, would I want to continue reading after that last sentence that I just wrote? And if you can answer yes to all 3 of these questions with each line that you write, your writing quality is going to be better, it's going to be easier to read, it's going to be more to the point. In other words, you're going to be giving readers exactly what they want, right? So always keep in mind those questions, and overall, the quality of your newsletters will increase and people will be happier and unsubscribe less. Newsletter tip number 10, use an effective email funnel to filter new subscribers. So this is kind of a more advanced tip, but answer me this question. When people join your email newsletter, are they going directly into the general population of your email newsletter list? Or, when I say general population, what I mean is, are they just coming directly onto your email list where then they're just waiting for the next time that you're going to hit send to receive content from you? If you answer yes to that question, you're missing out on a great opportunity, because what I recommend you do instead is put them into an automated email funnel sequence, right? And this is going to allow you to learn more about their interests. It's going to allow you to make a targeted offer based on how they respond to a survey that you might send them in the welcome email. And once again, in the vacuum funnel formula, I talk more about this in detail, so I recommend that you check that out because the data that you're going to get from this is going to be worth it. It's going to generate more leads and sales for you, and then they're still going to get onto your general population email newsletter list at the end of that initial email funnel anyway. Okay, so in conclusion, I hope that you found these tips valuable and actionable. And if you are a marketer or you run your own business and you want a reliable marketing partner like Pedovera to help you write your email funnel and newsletter for you, then I recommend clicking through on the article here to learn more about our email sales funnel service, and also click to read more about our newsletter service, where we actually will send the newsletter for you and write it for you along with our content marketing service on a weekly or monthly or quarterly basis. Okay? And finally, if you receive value from this article and these tips, please consider sharing this video and this article on Facebook, LinkedIn, Google+, and Twitter. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you next time.